Hey, John and Dylan. It's Pop Pop. I'm back with Separate is Not Equal. It'll probably be two more little videos to finish this because it's a pretty long book. But I'm going to start with where we were. Okay. Okay. Once I get it going. Let's see. Here we go. There's Pop Pop. Got it. That fall, Sylvia and her brothers had to attend Hoover Elementary School, better known as the Mexican School, on Olive Street in the city of Westminster. The building was clapboard shack, and the halls were not spacious or clean. A cow pasture surrounded the school. The students had to eat their lunch outside, and flies would land on their food. There was an electric wire that surrounded the pasture to keep the cows in. If you touched it, you received a shock. The school did not have a playground, not even a swing. That's not a very good school. The Mendez family did not give up. Time and again, Sylvia heard her father talk with the co-workers' friends and other parents. It is not fair that our kids have to go to the inferior school, he said. It is not only the building that's a problem. The teachers at that school don't care about our children's education. They expect them to drop out by the 8th grade. How will our children succeed and become doctors, lawyers, or teachers? Mr. Mendez created a group called the Parents Association of Mexican American Children. He tried to collect signatures for a petition to integrate schools so that all children, regardless of their skin color or background, could have the same opportunities. But every time he asked someone to sign the petition, he would get the same answer. No queremos problemas. We don't want any problems. Many of the parents worked on the farms owned by white families and feared that they would lose their jobs if they supported the petition. One day, a truck driver overheard Mr. Mendez trying to convince a worker to sign his petition. You know, said the truck driver, you could file a lawsuit. The truck driver told Mr. Mendez about a lawyer named David Marcus, who had filed a lawsuit on behalf of the people in San Bernardino and had helped them integrate the public pools there. At that time, not only were the schools segregated, but also other public places as well, such as pools, parks, and movie theaters. Some businesses even had signs that read, "No dogs or Mexicans allowed." Mr. Mendez decided right then and there to hire Mr. Marcus, even if it meant having to spend all of his savings to do so. Oh, boy, that's not a nice situation, is it? On the next few months, Mr. Mendez and Mr. Marcus traveled all over Orange County looking for people who had experienced similar problems. Sylvia watched her father leave early in the morning. Sometimes she saw him come home in the evening, but often she only heard his footsteps when he got in late at night. While he was away, Sylvia's mother had to take care of the farm. Mrs. Mendez would get Sylvia and her brothers ready for school, and then she would go out to the fields. She started the irrigation system, drove the tractor, oversaw the workers, and solved problems above that arose. With the help of Mr. Marcus, Mr. Mendez found and talked with other families who were dealing with segregation. One of them was the Estrada family. Mr. Estrada had fought in World War II. He had risked his life next to Americans of all races and backgrounds, but when he returned to America from the war, he found that his children were not allowed to attend school with white children. Es una injustice, said Mr. Mendez. It's an injustice. It certainly is. The Estrada family joined the Mendez case, and so did 3 more families. The families were from different school districts in Orange County: Westminster, where Sylvia lived, Garden Grove, El Modena, and Santa Ana. Mr. Marcus wanted to show that segregation of students affected not only Sylvia and her brothers, but more than 5,000 children in the public schools system all over Orange County. On March 2nd, 1945, Mr. Marcus went to the courthouse and filed the lawsuit. The trial was held at a courthouse in Los Angeles. Sylvia and her family dressed in their best clothes and sat in the courtroom to listen. The hearing lasted 5 days. Each day, Mr. Marcus called to the stand parents from different districts in Orange County and the superintendents from each district too. On the first day, Mr. Kent, the superintendent of Garden Grove District, was questioned. He said that he sent his children to the Mexican school to help them improve their English. This is a lie, thought Sylvia. Her English was as good as the English of any of the children at the Westminster School. Do you give the children tests? Asked Mr. Marcus. Mr. Kent claimed he did. We do so by talking to them. That is another lie. Sylvia wanted to yell. No one had questioned her. They rejected her from the Westminster School without asking her a thing. For what other reasons do you send children to the Mexican school? Asked Mr. Marcus. Sylvia and her family braced themselves to hear what Mr. Kent would say next. For their social behavior. They need to learn cleanliness of mind, manner, and dress. They are not learning that at home. They have problems with lice, impetigo, and tuberculosis. They have generally dirty hands, face, neck, and ears. The Mendez family and the others in the room stared at Mr. Kent in disbelief. What he was saying was not true. It was degrading. How many of the 292 children at the Mexican school are inferior to the whites in personal hygiene? Asked Mr. Marcus. At least 75%. And in their sociability, 75%. In what other aspects are they inferior? In their economic outlook, in their clothing, and in their inability to take part in activities of the school. Do you believe that white students are superior to the Mexicans in the respects that you have mentioned? Yes. And is that one of the reasons they are being segregated? Yes. Time and again, Mr. Mendez asked, why can't my children attend the Westminster School? Now he had his answer. On the second day, Mr. Marcus called to stand a 14-year-old student from the Mexican school in El Modeno. Her name was Carol Torres. She spoke perfect English. It was clear she had not been sent to the Mexican school because she had problems speaking the language, as the defense lawyers claimed. Mr. and Mrs. Mendez were questioned on the third and fourth day, and so was Mr. Harris, the superintendent of the Westminster School. Sylvia was not called to the stand. She was ready to testify if they asked her to. She tried, looking her best every morning, and she practiced what she would answer. On the fifth and final day of the hearing, Mr. Marcus called to the stand 2 education specialists to explain why it was so bad to segregate children into different schools. Segregation tends to give an aura of inferiority. In order to have people of the United States understand one another, it is necessary for them to live together, and the public schools is one mechanism where all the children of all the people go, said one of them. The judge nodded his head. He seemed to agree with this. Okay, we're going to stop right there and finish up in a minute. Okay.